Hi folks, hope everyone's enjoying another beautiful day in clown world where Democrats call everyone else fascist while showing up in ski masks to punch teenagers in the face for liking free speech. Today's circus comes to you live from UC Berkeley, the holy land of hypocrisy where tolerance goes to die and irony gets tenure. You see, yesterday Turning Point USA held its final campus tour event. Yes, the one honoring Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated just 2 months ago. And in true Berkeley fashion, Antifa decided to commemorate it by reenacting the George Floyd riots. But amazingly enough, with even less literacy. It all started around 4:30 p.m. when black-clad geniuses with keffiyehs started swinging fists and bricks at attendees, all while screaming, "Justice!" Police showed up just in time to watch. Later that night, the mob surrounded kids leaving the event chanting, "F your dead homie," like it was a halftime show at the Super Bowl. This is what the Democrat Party has become, so consumed by hate, they can't tell the difference between activism and a psychotic episode.
Fuck your dead homie, 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 fuck your dead homie. No fascist USA! No ICE! No KKK, no fascist USA!
We have to call this for what it is, folks. This isn't even a protest anymore. This is organized political propaganda. Political theater directed and funded by groups like the Democrat Socialists of America and the Communist Party, backed by George Soros and other tech billionaires who are communists. These people aren't honest brokers. This isn't a spontaneous outcry from ordinary citizens standing up for justice. This isn't Selma, this isn't civil rights, and it sure isn't some moral stand against oppression. What we're witnessing is an orchestrated campaign to intimidate, to silence, and to dehumanize anyone who holds a different opinion. Let's remember what this was supposed to be. A peaceful, legal event hosted by Turning Point USA at UC Berkeley, where students, families, and community members gathered to celebrate the life of Charlie Kirk, a man assassinated for his beliefs just 2 months ago. These were fathers, mothers, children, teenagers, ordinary people showing up for a memorial and a message about freedom. And yet, the response from the Democrats was to swarm the venue, surround the exits, and chant, "F your dead homie." That's not protest. That's hatred ritualized into performance art. That's cruelty masquerading as activism. There is absolutely nothing fascistic about holding a memorial or a political gathering in a public space. Nothing. Yet these agitators, these crisis actors, armed with pre-printed signs, coordinated chants, and matching uniforms, show up to declare that anyone to the right of Bernie Sanders is a fascist. It's projection in its purest form. They are literally mirroring the behavior they claim to fight against, silencing dissent, demonizing opposition, and enforcing ideological purity through mob pressure. They are the thing they claim to resist. And let's not pretend any of this is organic. None of this is. Democrats love to sell the image of grassroots resistance, but what we're seeing here is a professional operation with big money, political organizations, NGOs, and online networks mobilizing people who can barely articulate what they're supposedly fighting against. These aren't independent thinkers, folks. They're crisis actors in a scripted morality play. Look closely and you'll see the same symbols, the same hammer and sickle flags, the same slogans recycled across cities and campuses. It's a franchise model of outrage brought to you by the same people who think America itself is an evil empire. So ask yourself, what are they actually standing up against? There's no fascism coming to America. There's no authoritarian movement silencing them. Quite the opposite. These people dominate academia, the media, corporate culture, and even government. They are the establishment pretending to be the resistance. And the only thing they're resisting is accountability, debate, and truth. You see, Democrats have become so addicted to labeling everything fascism that the word has lost all meaning. I saw a clip the other day of Hassan Piker being escorted through Congress by a Democrat congresswoman, and as he walked past artwork representing George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and the founding of this country, he pointed at all of this and called them fascists. Just think about that, folks. Men who literally fought a war to free this country from tyranny, who wrote the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, guaranteeing the freedoms and liberties that make this kind of protest even possible, being called fascists. They fought against monarchy, not for it. They created the freest society in human history, and yet, in the twisted logic of today's Democrats, they're villains somehow. That's the inversion we're currently living through, folks. Up is down, freedom is oppression, speech is violence, and violence is activism. What we're witnessing at Berkeley wasn't just another ugly night. It was a snapshot of a culture that's lost its moral compass, a culture where the people who scream loudest about tolerance are the ones least capable of practicing it, where hatred is repackaged as virtue and mob rule is sold as some form of progress.
Last hour, we've highlighted for you as some fights broke out in this crowd. Again, we know 2 people have been detained as emotions are high and tensions are high, as we saw some of those protesters clashing with people waiting in line to get inside. We know the university has added enhanced security measures. They've called in a lot of police from Berkeley as well as UC Berkeley, and Turning Point USA has also hired some of their own independent security to be on campus. There are strict policies to actually get inside of Zellerbach Hall, but we know tensions are high outside of Hall right now. We want to show you some more video here of some of that law enforcement presence.
Now, in the footage we're watching, we're seeing a man being attacked. There were a lot of questions about who started this confrontation. The facts are pretty straightforward when you watch more video. The man who ended up being arrested wasn't the aggressor. He was the victim. He had a small table set up outside the Turning Point USA event at UC Berkeley selling Freedom t-shirts when one of the protesters, one of these Antifa thugs, snatched his cross chain. And when he tried to get it back, the mob pounced. He was surrounded, punched, and thrown to the ground, and somehow he's the one the police decided to handcuff. So what we're witnessing here isn't just a scuffle, it's a reflection of a deeper cultural sickness. This is what happens when political violence is normalized and moral order completely collapses. When Democrat ideology has so thoroughly captured our institutions that even self-defense becomes a crime if you're wearing the wrong hat. The media calls it clashing groups as if both sides showed up looking for a fight, but that framing hides the truth of what happened. These aren't 2 equal forces colliding, folks. This is a one-sided campaign of intimidation meant to erase dissent and frighten ordinary Americans into silence. It's not about who threw the first punch. It's about who's been given permission to throw the first punch and get away with it with full cover from the police.
Talk about the kidnapping.
Just take away.
Why are they kidnapping us?
Christ is Lord.
Fuck ICE! 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 We're gonna start our first speech of the night.
Stop the kidnapping! Stop the deportation!
Jesus Christ is the Messiah. He will be returned.
The first speech of the night. I would like to welcome Antonio from Students Organizing for Liberation. Hello. I first want to thank all of you all for coming out here. And I do want to pay attention to our comrade right here. They have a point. It is our job as students to be educators within the student movement. It is not enough to say fuck fascism when we don't tell why we need it. Okay, and this is it.
You guys, that's exactly what they want. That's exactly what they want.
Break it up! Break it up! Break it up! Private police, break it up! Break it up! Break it up! The guy with the red! The guy with the red! The guy with the red! Break it up! Break it up! Police, break it up! Police, break it up! Hey, you white boy, break it up! You bleeding, bitch! Yep. Stop. Hey, white boy, you're bleeding, white boy! Relax! Break it up! Break it up! What happened? What happened? Relax. Relax.
I didn't do nothing. Relax.
What happened, white boy? Hey, white boy, what the fuck happened?
Guy tried to rob me. Okay.
Can you guys step back, please? You guys come film.
We need to go back to that George W. Bush doctrine of not negotiating with terrorists because you can't. These people don't want dialogue. They want complete domination. They want you silenced, erased, and destroyed. And depending on where you are, if it's Berkeley, for example, they'll get full cover from the police while doing it. That's what makes this so infuriating. In the footage, the man who was attacked had his cross ripped from his neck, his t-shirts scattered all across the pavement, and his face bloodied. He's the one who ends up in handcuffs. No investigation, no context, just reflexive punishment for being on the wrong side of the political spectrum. Are we really supposed to believe that one man was somehow the aggressor against a crowd of 30 or 50 masked protesters? Come on. This is the new face of selective justice in America. Democrats weaponize outrage, the mob delivers the blows, and the system covers for it. The same Democrats who spent years screaming defund the police are now perfectly fine with the police acting as their personal enforcers. They rail against fascism while embodying it, collapsing law and order into an ideological loyalty test where truth no longer matters, only power and narrative.
This is Savannah Hernandez at UC Berkeley at the TPUSA Out of the Bay protest. Now, it is about 7 p.m. at this point, but this has been going on since 4:30, and my friends, it has been absolute chaos. Now, at the beginning of the night, you quickly had 2 people that were arrested. One person was a Trump supporter, another was an Antifa member, and as the Trump supporter was getting arrested, he stated that the Antifa member came and tried to steal his stuff, resulting in the altercation. Now, that happened fairly quickly at the beginning of the protest, and everything just evolved since then. Now, this is actually the entrance to the TPUSA event tonight, and the attendee line actually stretched out this way, and it kind of stretched into this area so people could get into this conference center behind me. Now, what ended up happening is this huge swarm of protesters, many of which are trans members, some of them are furries, and of course, many Antifa members and Antifa-aligned groups, they all ended up swarming those attendees. Now, one of the Antifa members actually lit off a flare, smoke started going everywhere, and then another protester drove past in his vehicle. It started backfiring multiple times. It kind of sounded like gunshots. I could see the visible fear in many of the attendees' eyes, and they all started swarming into this area. Now, police quickly let them pass these barriers to, essentially protect them and help with their safety, because the mob then quickly started descending on these barriers. Now, they have multiple times tried to break this area down and break these barriers down, and they have been chanting all night, calling attendees of this event fascist, Nazis, anti-Semites. They've been calling them every single name in the book while simultaneously saying that Nazis need to be killed. Now, they have also been mocking the death of Charlie Kirk, and I have seen several signs tonight glorifying and celebrating Charlie's death. So that is the protest in attendance tonight. Those are the people inside. You even had people chanting, F your homie is dead, referring to Charlie Kirk. So that's an idea of how chaotic it has been out here at UC Davis. The next challenge is going to be how attendees now leave this event, as this entrance is completely blocked with very aggressive protesters.
This is absolutely ridiculous. Why are people not allowed to take part in a completely peaceful event? Why do we live in a time where this is what happens when conservatives get together? You don't see this on the other side. If this were happening at a left-wing event, you'd have Chuck Schumer on TV within the hour, wringing his hands about right-wing extremism and warning about threats to democracy. But when the violence goes the other way, when Antifa lights flares, storms barriers, and celebrates the murder of Charlie Kirk, suddenly no one in power seems to care. Why doesn't this count in the ADL statistics on political violence? Why doesn't this show up in their reports about threats to civil society? It never will, because those numbers are curated to fit their Democrat narrative. The same institutions that claim to defend democracy deliberately exclude this kind of left-wing political intimidation from the record. And notice the selective enforcement of law and order. Police arrested one Antifa member despite clear footage showing multiple attackers surrounding and beating that Trump supporter. I counted at least half a dozen people assaulting him, and yet only one arrest. Why? Why is that? To maintain the illusion of impartiality? It's completely disgraceful, especially when you consider where this is happening, at an academic institution that supposedly exists to foster open dialogue and intellectual exchange. Instead, it's become the enforcement wing of ideological conformity. UC Berkeley, once a symbol of free speech, now celebrates censorship through mob intimidation. Faculty and administrators may not throw punches, but their silence is pure complicity. They've created the conditions that allow this sort of thing to happen. And I've seen this pattern across California's campuses. Just last week at UCLA, while tabling, students whispered their support, but were terrified to be seen with conservatives. They're scared that if anyone finds out they're conservative, they'll be ostracized, graded differently, or lose future job opportunities. That's not a culture of education, it's a culture of fear. This is what happens when political ideology replaces intellectual honesty. Democrats love this dynamic because it keeps people self-censoring, keeps them isolated, and ensures that only one worldview survives in the classroom, in the media, and eventually in the public square. What happened at Berkeley last night is bigger than a riot. It's a reflection of what America has become when its institutions surrender to ideological bullying. The same people who claim to fight hate are actually fueling it. The same people who say they stand for diversity cannot tolerate diversity of thought. This is the logical endpoint of a movement that values control over truth, narrative over reality, and power over principle. And until people stand up and call this for what it is, organized political violence designed to silence dissent, this sickness will keep spreading through every level of American life.
Dick, you asshole!
Jesus loves you, man.
I think the dynamic has never been more evident. Who do we see leaving the event? Families, women, children, elderly men, ordinary Americans just trying to walk to their cars and leave this event, being screamed at and swarmed by a mob of masked Antifa insurgents. These aren't protesters, folks. They're Marxist insurgents. We have to start calling them for what they are. They're not there to debate or demonstrate. They're there to intimidate, to dehumanize, to enforce ideological control through fear. You can see mothers clutching their daughters while being cursed out, told to F off, while still managing to respond with grace. Some even saying Jesus loves you to the people screaming in their faces. That's the moral divide in real time. If you look back through popular history, Hollywood has depicted scenes like this before. Angry crowds surrounding innocent people, spitting, yelling, blocking exits. Only back then, it was supposedly white mobs terrorizing black students during school desegregation. The same hatred, the same herd mentality, the same moral blindness, and now it's cloaked in black hoodies, socialist slogans. It's not just about politics anymore, folks. It's a cultural inversion, a moral sickness. And yes, there is a racial dynamic at play that no one dares to discuss. Many of those being harassed are white conservatives, and many of the attackers are not. And yet the media that sees racism in everything suddenly sees nothing here. That silence tells you everything about the double standards driving modern America. Hatred is tolerated, even celebrated, as long as it targets the right people. The last time we saw images like this at Berkeley was when Milo Yiannopoulos and Ben Shapiro tried to speak there nearly a decade ago, and here we go again, folks, full circle. We thought the Overton window had shifted, that America had learned something from the chaos of those years. It hasn't. The Democrat Party didn't disappear. They regrouped, rebranded, and came back meaner, angrier, and far more organized. The battle has only just begun, folks, and this time we're starting from a much darker place. The last round ended with a global pandemic weaponized for political gain, with the George Floyd riots tearing apart our cities, and with a media class that sanctified the destruction as justice. Now we begin this new chapter with assassination attempts on Trump, the murder of Charlie Kirk, and a wave of coordinated street violence across the country, all cheered on by the same elite donors and global interests who profit from this sort of instability. So ask yourselves, folks, how much chaos are we willing to tolerate before we admit this is not grassroots outrage but engineered unrest? How long before we realize a social upheaval is being financed, not fought? America will never be a communist country, folks. Not as long as there are men and women grounded in faith, courage, and conviction who refuse to kneel before this madness. And as we've seen in these moments, there are still brave Americans who walk with Christ, stand for truth, and remind the world that light does not ask for permission from the darkness to shine. You tell me what you think in the comments down below. Hope you have a terrific day. Peace.